And welcome back. Now, a study has revealed that almost 30% of online shoppers get duped into buying counterfeit products like fake makeup, skincare, and of course, medicine. And according to the study, counterfeiting is mushrooming, and that's due to a lack of legislation and also enforcement to counter the online as well as offline trading. Now, PayPal, which is a worldwide online payment system that supports online money transfer, stated that almost 70% of all active online adults in South Africa spent an estimated 45.3 billion rand at the till at the end of 2018. And joining us now to talk more about counterfeiting is Paul Ramara from Spoor and Fisher attorneys. Paul, good morning and thanks for coming through.
Good morning.
And I actually want to go back to the beginning and just get a definition of counterfeit. What is counterfeit?
Yes, I'll just give you a simple explanation. It's simply a deliberate use of a trademark and or copyrighted works belonging to another proprietor without consent.
And given that, how dire is the counterfeit problem in South Africa?
Unfortunately, there has not been a consolidated studies by all the enforcement authorities in South Africa. So I cannot give you the accurate statistics on the dire situation in South Africa, but what I can tell you is that it is indeed very, very serious. If one looks back as recently as December, there was an Operation Maubuye Umteto, where we worked with the city of Johannesburg. And on a daily basis, we seize goods to the value of over 18 million.
So we don't know the exact extent of the problem, but do we have some idea of how it actually impacts our economy?
Most definitely. So firstly, if you look at the companies that have spent huge amounts of money in marketing their product, in producing their products, it impacts them because it obviously leads to loss of sale, and it also affects their reputation. Because as you can imagine, the quality of these goods is quite bad, such that when the consumer, is having problems with these counterfeit goods, would more often think that it's the original manufacturer that has manufactured these counterfeit goods.
So how do we deal with this problem then, Paul? Because what immediately comes to mind is you have shopping centers in some instances entirely dedicated to selling what is called Chinese goods. And a lot of time you would go to some shop in an upmarket, an upscale mall, and they sell something. And you can go to these China malls, as it were, and find the exact same item. So what does that mean? Is that stuff counterfeit? And if so, what is being done about it? Because these entities, these shopping centers are out in the open and by all indications seem to be operating legally.
Yes, so a lot of work is being done behind the scenes. Firstly, a lot of goods that are being sold at this, you mentioned the Chinese shopping centers. Some of the goods sold, they are indeed very counterfeit. And we have worked very closely with enforcement authorities, in particular JMPD, the South African Police Service, as well as Customs, to root out the counterfeiting in those areas. But it does take a bit of time, in a sense that you have to obviously lay complaints with the police, they have to apply for search warrants, and then only then we can conduct search and seizure operations.
But you see, what makes it difficult to understand that is that these centers are mushrooming all over the show. Their growth seems to be accelerated, and yet you are saying that there are counterfeit goods here, and seemingly you're not acting fast enough. You can't keep up.
Yeah, so the strategy to fight counterfeiting is essentially twofold. We need to fight counterfeiting at the port of entry. So we work very closely with customs in that regard. We have filed on behalf of our clients customs recordals, where customs becomes our eyes and ears for everything coming into the country. But you can imagine, Durban Harbour, for instance, clears about 2,000 containers, not only destined for South Africa, but also to other African countries. So it's almost impossible for them to stop everything. Now, for anything that goes into the market, we work very closely with the enforcement authorities. Now, coming back to the same Chinese question, not everything that is being sold there is obviously counterfeit, but we have found a lot of counterfeit in those areas as well.
So how does a consumer discern?
Yes, so the golden rule with the counterfeit is the price. The price that these counterfeit are being offered to consumers is substantially lower to prices offered by the original manufacturers. And that's the starting point. Is the price is too good to be true, then it probably is. So the next step is to look at the goods, peer too closely to the goods, look at the packaging. If the packaging is or seems to be of a lower quality, then it's an indication that it is a counterfeit. The other thing is the labeling on the goods. The other easy thing that counterfeiters almost make, and that's essentially because these counterfeit goods originate in the Far East, is the spelling errors.
So as far as law enforcement, you've touched on that, but how do they go about on a day-to-day basis actually policing this? Because you stop at a traffic light in South Africa and invariably people are trying to sell you something, and very often it is counterfeit, be it, from movies to other sorts of products that are usually a knockoff of something else. So how is it policed?
Yeah, so I mean, South Africa is a constitutional democracy, and all these matters are driven by complaints. So because if the JMPD, for instance, goes out and sees almost every item that they find on the street, the next step that they would have to face is evidence to confirm that those goods are counterfeit. So it's a question of working very closely together with the enforcement authorities in terms of laying complaints on behalf of companies that have problems with these counterfeit goods, and then asking the police, customs to seize those goods.
Would it be fair to say that law enforcement is overwhelmed by the problem?
They are doing their best. I have in this regard to give credit to them. They are doing their absolute best. But of course, there is a question of manpower. They can't do everything at the same time. The other thing that...
So yes, they are overwhelmed.
They are overwhelmed. But I think the consumers also can assist in this regard, because this is a supply and demand issue. For as long as there is a demand for counterfeit goods, there will always be a supply. But the other thing is that I have to share with you, Sakina, is over 100,000 deaths are linked to counterfeit drug trade. This is a study that was conducted by the World Health Organization. So this is a very big problem. So if you are, buying counterfeit goods, you must not only think that you are getting a cheap item, but also bear in mind that you are also contributing to a criminal activity.
We're out of time, but how does the consumer once again know that they are buying a counterfeit grandpa or an Etkadol or, a Panada? How do they know that? How do they spot these counterfeits?
Yes, so I've spoken about the golden rule of the price. I've also spoken about the packaging. Often with you talking about grandpa or food products, the smell sometimes give it away, because these guys sometimes use a chalk. They will just use a chalk, shape it in the form of a tablet, and if it looks like a tablet, they will sell it.
I am shocked, but unfortunately we are out of time. So Paul Ramara says, people, they may be consuming chalk, that has been shaped into a tablet, and you may be thinking you're taking a painkiller, whereas you're simply ingesting chalk. So this is the problem with counterfeit goods, and really we need to be more vigilant when it comes to these. But thank you so much to our guest this morning, Paul Ramara from Spoor and Fisher Attorneys. And of course, hopefully we'll do a follow-up on this because these are very concerning matters. It is time now for the latest news with Leanne.